Story 1. When I was in kindergarten, my teacher would prepare a whole setup for a child's birthday, including animal-themed plates, snacks, masks, and other items. On my birthday, we had a substitute teacher who did nothing to celebrate. Fortunately, my mother brought treats for everyone so we could celebrate, but I didn't receive any of the special items that other children got. I am still upset about it to this day. Story 2. My girlfriend of 6 years ignored me all day. My family made me cook my own birthday pizza. I brought a slice to my girlfriend and her mother. I just got a happy birthday and a hug. Then she asked why I was upset. I left because if I said it in person, I would have cried. I took a day off work for nothing. Story 3. My dad scheduled a dentist appointment for me on my birthday. I still cannot believe he thought that was an okay way to spend the day. Story 4. Well, my dad decided to put down my first dog a day before my 11th birthday. That was really sad. Then there were years when nobody decided to do anything and just forgot about it. But hey, my birthday is next week, so hopefully this one will be better. Story 5. 5 years ago, my sister moved to Germany one day before my birthday. Since she would not be there to eat cake and celebrate with me, my family made a mini birthday party with the only cake they got me while I was at work. She got to open my presents because she would not see what I got when she left. The cherry on top was that she took a few of my presents with her because she liked them better. So, I spent my birthday with 2 slices of cake, a phone charger, and a new pillow as my only presents, and my sister on the other side of the world. I told my parents I was going to celebrate with some friends and actually drove for an hour to a park to cry. I know my situation was not terrible, but I felt so betrayed. I have a good relationship with my family, but that is still a scar in my heart. Story 6. A friend scheduled his engagement party with his fiancée on my birthday. He invited the entire friend group except for me, my brother, who is in the same friend group, and another guy. Story 7. My husband and I had plans with my father and stepmother to celebrate my stepmother's and my joint birthdays. But the day before, my father had a heart attack and was hospitalized. On my birthday, I was finally allowed to see Dad. My husband and 3-year-old son said, "Happy birthday," but I received no card or gift. I spent the day with my dad at the hospital and came home in the late afternoon. This was before I had a cell phone. I looked around, no dinner started, no present, no card. I asked my husband what the plan was. He said there wasn't one. He figured since the dinner with my dad and stepmother was canceled, we weren't going to do anything. I said, "Well, okay. Aren't we going to do a gift or a card?" He said he didn't have time to do that. I was livid. Our marriage never recovered. I left him 2 years later. I didn't even have a job. The need to be out was so strong. I was only 35. My son is now 27, and I am very proud of him. Story 8. My entire family moved across the country one day before my birthday, leaving me homeless and alone in my state. Thank goodness I was able to stay with friends until I could find a place to live. Story 9. I planned an amazing evening for me and my girlfriend. Around 4:30, she called an audible and asked that we switch to her place instead. She lives 45 minutes away. I agreed, thinking she must have a great evening planned. I got there and waited 2 hours for her to get ready. Then she said, "So what do you want to do?" We ended up at the same place we always order from when I go there. It's her favorite. It's good, but the same old routine. We went back to her place. She fell asleep because she was tired. In the morning, I let her know I had to pick up my kids by 11. She made me listen to a podcast, even though I begged her not to make me listen to podcasts because I have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and the idea of sitting still for an hour and listening to a story is my personal hell. Then she didn't understand why I was a little upset about the evening and said we always do what I want to do. We broke up shortly thereafter. To top it off, I mentioned how my ex-wife never did anything special for me for my birthday or Christmas. She would always say how that's terrible and everyone should be treated special on their birthday, then proceeded to plan nothing and do what she liked last minute. I get more angry every time I think about it. Story 10. My significant other and my adult children forgot about it for the last few years. It just happened again on Friday. Happy 57th birthday. I need a new life. Story 11. My mother screamed at me and made me cry on my 16th birthday, and to this day I have not received an apology. Story 12. On my 10th birthday, I was on the way to Chuck E. Cheese for my birthday party. My little brother was so excited that he vomited in the back seat of the car. We were very late to my own birthday party. Story 13. When I was turning 16, I had a big party at a skating rink. My dad had the cake in his car, and he got into a minor accident. I still went to the party late and without a cake, and I had a migraine the whole night. I ended up vomiting in the bathroom and went home early. Story 14. I just turned 40 this week. I asked my husband to bring me some of my favorite vegan deli slices because he was in Nashville and driving back. He brought me 4 packs of deli meat and said it was good. Luckily, my friend who cares about me flew out and booked a cabin in the mountains for me and my 2 children. When I got home, my husband had already eaten one of the packs. Happy birthday to me. I am glad I have 2 children. Story 15. When it was my 25th birthday, my best friend called me. I answered with, "Yeah, let's have fun tonight," only to find out she was crying on the phone, saying her grandmother, who raised her, had died that morning. That definitely ruined my mood for the day, but I still went over to her home to be her support. Story 16. My 17th birthday was kind of ruined by me dying temporarily 5 days before it. I will say, though, the nurses tried to do as much as they could to celebrate for me, which I will always appreciate. Story 17. John F. Kennedy assassination. He was killed on my 5th birthday, and that was all everybody wanted to talk about that day. Story 18. My friends took their own lives when I was 16, and now I cannot celebrate. I am 28 now. It has been over 10 years, and I still cannot celebrate. Feels wrong. Story 19. My borderline personality disorder and difficulty separating memories from people caused me to completely blank out my 16th birthday because I spent it only with my former friend. Story 20. My birthday was ruined when someone brought store-bought cupcakes. I spent 6 hours hand-making desserts for their party. But okay. Story 21. My significant other took my birthday trip without me. He took a friend since I could no longer go because I had to take care of our kids who had head lice. When he asked if he should go, I told him, "You do what you think is the right thing." He was gone for 3 days and did not text or call. Happy birthday to me. I am dreading my birthday this year. Story 22. My best friend and I had birthdays 2 days apart. I went to visit her, a 6.5-hour drive away, and she left me alone in her apartment on my birthday and forgot all about it. We have celebrated together for 6 years. Story 23. My dad said he was going to come to my 18th birthday party at a casino. He didn't text me after I messaged him many times asking when he would be there, where he was, and what time he would show up. I had already finished bowling, eating, and gambled a little before he texted me, "I'm in the lobby," at 9 p.m. That was his first text all day. I am not trying to complain about the prices of gifts, but I got a wallet that said, "I'm broke," a dented and scratched Stanley Cup brand item, a keychain that said Pisces, and a sunlight catcher. Again, I am not complaining about the gifts because I do use them, but he shopped in the clearance section for all of them. He stayed until 10 p.m., so about an hour, and then left. The joke's on him. I won $450 on my 18th birthday. I went in with $170 to gamble and $230 to save, and I left with $750. Story 24. My dog was hit and killed by a car 3 days before my 21st birthday. We were supposed to leave for Disney 2 days later. We still went, as neither choice would have changed the circumstance. I drank heavily and cried in the hotel bed almost every night. I laughed and forgot when the moments came, but walking back inside the house after the trip was like walking into a brick wall. The grief was so heavy. It has been almost 2 months, and I still think about her every day and cry just as much as I did the day it happened. My birthday will never be the same again. Story 25. Reading the comments, I truly feel like I was a lucky kid. I never really felt like I was forgotten or hurt by anyone on my birthdays. Story 26. One year, an emergency appendix removal, and another time finding messages from my ex cheating on me, thinking he was hiding messages about a birthday surprise for me. Story 27. My estranged parent, whom I have not spoken to in over a decade, is sending their usual, "I do not know what I did wrong" texts to be ignored, despite having the actual words on what they repeatedly did wrong if they bothered to scroll up. Story 28. I was not a kid who was into sports, so my mom did not know the schedule of important games in my town before scheduling my birthday party. On the day of the birthday party, only one friend showed up out of the 30 or so kids who were invited. My mom asked around afterward and learned that there was a major soccer tournament on the same day. Needless to say, my mom was upset that she wasted money on food, games, and goodie bags. She said, "I just needed one parent to tell me that, and I would have moved the date." As for me, I never wanted to have a big birthday party or any other big gathering to celebrate myself ever again. It took my family pleading for me to celebrate my law school graduation nearly 40 years later to actually agree to a big celebration. I was terrified no one would show up. Luckily, there was no soccer match to contend with, so it was a fun party. Story 29. My worst birthday was my 16th. That one is supposed to be special. Mine was marked by my intoxicated father confronting me and demanding money because he knew I had received birthday money and had just been paid. Story 30. I had to go to a Las Vegas wedding that day, and it was Memorial Day weekend, so flights were very expensive. I am also terrified of flying and experienced several panic attacks. Story 31. Oh, how I hate my birthday. Let me count the ways. My parents decided to get me just one godparent as a child. I was the middle forgotten child. My siblings each had two godparents. Since our birthdays and Christmas are all close together, I always got the least and had to watch them open hordes of gifts. My parents were notoriously bad gift givers. I always got stuff that was better for my brother, never for me. I changed schools after 3rd grade. In 4th grade, I had a birthday party. No friends from either the new or old school came. My parents had to beg cousins to come. Fast forward a few years. My best friend, for whom I always planned fun birthdays, always forgot mine or planned something last minute that was poorly done. The worst was when I turned 18, and he had a party for my cousin's birthday and forgot it was actually my birthday. His birthday is in May, but the party continued for him. Later, my now ex-wife routinely missed my birthday, and after we divorced, she always kept the kids on my birthday if it was my weekend with them. So birthdays alone sucked. 2 years ago, I got kidney stones on my birthday, stemming from my recent sarcoidosis diagnosis. I spent the weekend in the hospital. My current wife tries so hard to make up for all this. I am so happy to have her. Story 32. I was hit by a delivery truck. That was difficult. I had no one to help me celebrate or assist me during my recovery. It was very challenging. Story 33. My parents forgot about it and did not call. I was an adult, so it was not the worst thing in the world. However, that turned out to be my last birthday with my dad, making it harder to remember. Story 34. When my lifelong best friend slept with my boyfriend in my bed. When I broke my leg and was in a cast. That's all I've got. Story 35. Having to work on my birthday. Where I work, they let you have a paid day off for your birthday holiday, except for major holidays. You are not allowed to request your birthday holiday on a major holiday, and my birthday falls exactly on one of those major holidays. I will have to take a different day off, but it's too bad. Story 36. I had a supervisor who, on your birthday, would gather everyone in the department to sit in a circle and then ask each person to say what they did not like about the birthday person. Story 37. My cake was delivered melted already. I bought it myself because I didn't think anyone cared. Thank God my cousin, my best and only friend, had bought a cake beforehand. What is even more interesting is that it was from the same bakery, same flavor, same design, same color, only different because she wrote "Happy 22nd birthday" instead of "I'm feeling 22. Story 38. Last year on my birthday, my supervisor pulled me into her office for a critique and basically reprimanded me harshly. I cried, "This year will be better." Story 39. I had two people who I thought were my best friends, and neither of them texted me on my birthday. That was when I realized I was the only one putting in any effort in the friendships. If I stopped putting effort into the friendship, it would be over. Story 40. I turned 21 about a month after everything shut down for coronavirus in 2020. Then, in 2021, my grandfather's funeral was on my birthday. Story 41. As a child, the first thing was being forced to wear something I did not want to wear. But that was forgotten when I became an orphan. If my birthday was celebrated, it only brought up mourning my family. Now, it is as if no one says happy birthday. Story 42. My ex promised me a nice night out. He is running 2 hours late. I am having a heart attack, thinking he forgot his insulin and passed out behind the wheel. Drove by his house, the car is not there. Now I am really freaking out. Called his brother. It turns out the guy had landed himself in jail for 48 hours over expired vehicle registration. Bummer, but not a deal breaker, right? Wrong. Looked into his public records. 7 outstanding criminal charges dating back 4 years that he never appeared in court for, and never mentioned to me all 8 months we were together. Story 43. Having to sit in the district attorney's office on my 16th birthday to recount the details of 10 years of child sexual abuse I endured. I am not sure why I had to go a second time and repeat everything, but for whatever reason, that specific day was scheduled. My sister even tried to remind my mother when she was on the phone making the appointment that it was my birthday, but she was shushed. However, I got Olive Garden for dinner. Story 44. My birthday is after a holiday, so we decided to have them on the same day so family could come and eat. They never say happy birthday. Sometimes they give me gifts and then leave. One year, what ruined it was my sister, who I never get to talk to or see, called and asked for money. My grandpa, who promised to come, did not and went off to do something with a man. All I got that year were clothes I could not fit, a journal, and a mirror. Story 45. It was always band camp for all my friends. I was not allowed to be in band because it was too expensive and I had too many commitments already. From middle school onward, all my friends were away. Fortunately, I had a very loving family and enjoyed my birthdays. However, it was disappointing that my friends could never stay the night. Story 46. I never did anything for my birthday until my current partner started making me celebrate. Last year, not only did she forget, but I forgot too. She was more upset about it than I was. Story 47. Absolutely nothing exciting happened on my big day. No presents, no party, no cake. Nothing. And it is all because my home share providers were being overly strict. Story 48. Didn't ruin it. Quite the opposite, in fact. The 2003 Northeast blackout happened on my 18th birthday. Instead of the barbecue catering my parents ordered, my family and I all brought food from the freezer and grilled outside. Then we hung out and laughed until well after dark. Story 49. The guy I was seriously seeing, basically in a relationship with, came to my house to celebrate with my other friend. We ate dinner and then he fell asleep for 2 hours. Later, he lied to me and said he had to leave early because he had work in the morning. He offered to give my other friend a ride home since they live on the same side of town. About 20 minutes after leaving my house, they posted on social media getting ice cream together at a place on the complete opposite side of town from where they lived. I do not speak to either of them anymore. It was my golden birthday too. Story 50. Parents were in the middle of separating, and we were in the process of selling our house. We had showings all day on my birthday, so we spent the day driving around without doing anything. On 2 other separate birthdays, each respective best friend at the time forgot. Story 51. Not necessarily my birthday, but exactly 1 week after my birthday last year, I totaled my sedan at an intersection, and it was my own fault. I turned left on a yield green without double-checking that no one was going straight. There were 2 people turning right, and I assumed that would be it because this road is not commonly used when I was driving. I was T-boned on the front passenger side. I was the only one in the vehicle and nobody was injured. Neither vehicle's airbags deployed, so the impact was not that severe, but both vehicles were totaled. My insurance paid for it, but then they dropped my entire family because I had 2 accidents on my record. The other accident was 3 years ago. Story 52. My little brother died by suicide the day before my birthday, about 20 years ago. It haunts me every year. A recent partner who knew this fact about my life then proceeded to, I believe, be unfaithful to me on my birthday and broke up with me the day after in a very hurtful way. Well, there go birthdays for me forever. Story 53. We just found out a couple of years ago that I have a half-brother who shares the same birthday as me, just different years. The last couple of years, we have done nothing for my birthday, and my dad goes out of state to spend my half-brother's birthday with him. Story 54. A friend decided to tell me a rumor, although he presented it as if it were true, about another friend that would have ruined our relationship if it had been true. I spent hours investigating to see if it was real or not. It was not real. It stressed me out after an already mediocre day, considering my family was too broke to do anything special. My parents had to work all day, and all my friends except the rumor spreader were out of town. Story 55. At my 3rd birthday party, my cousin broke my piñata. I got stung by a bee and had to sit in my brother's bedroom for the rest of the party, crying from the sting. I did not get to blow out my candles, eat cake, or open any presents. At a different birthday, a friend kicked me extremely hard and then proceeded to yell at me as if it were my fault. Another year, everyone's birthdays were celebrated and made a big deal of in class. Mine was not even mentioned because we had to take a test that day. Story 56. Since I was 26 years old, the last 14 years have been marked by my father's death. He died the day after I turned 26. It is a bittersweet thing to think about, at least for me. Story 57. I was probably around 12 or 13 when my grandparents took me out to eat as a special treat. I ordered a meal I couldn't finish, so I brought it home and stored it in the fridge for later. My uncle came home high and ate my birthday dinner, then had the audacity to get upset with me for being angry. I haven't spoken to him since. It wasn't just because of that. He is generally a bad person. Story 58. For my 21st birthday, she was supposed to be my designated driver. Then my girlfriend confessed she had cheated on me and left right after I had paid her way into the amusement park. I did not get a single thing I wanted that day. By far, it was my most miserable birthday, including the one when I worked 14 hours straight and missed the family dinner they were trying to throw for me. Story 59. I had the worst food poisoning of my life on my last birthday, so it feels like it was skipped altogether. Story 60. My sister-in-law and I share the same birthday. One year, the night before our birthday, the police came to her door and told her that her daughter, my niece, had been killed in a car accident. Story 61. When it was forgotten about, that night someone wanted to make up for it by throwing a surprise party. I had to get dressed and go, even though it was late on a Sunday night and I just wanted to be home relaxing before the work week. It is not my fault that you forgot and dropped the ball. I do not want a lame party thrown half-heartedly to make you feel better and me feel even worse. Story 62. On my 17th birthday, I was stood up in front of all my friends. She acted as if she forgot we were supposed to do something that day. Story 63. My coworkers tried to throw me a surprise party for my 60th birthday. It was all good. I had no idea. The day before, my immediate supervisor intentionally copied me in the email thread. I could hear the groans in the office when they all read what she had done. Sounds like a small thing, but then I had to act like it was okay. It was not okay. Story 64. I did my mother a favor by taking some documents somewhere. Since I was late and my brother went to work, my little sister ended up staying home alone and my mother got mad at me for that. Honestly, it ruined my mood and made me feel bad. Story 65. It was my 13th birthday. My mother had died 8 months before. I was living with relatives but came to visit my father for my birthday. The day before, I was at the beach and got a bad sunburn. I woke up crying with blisters. My father was not home. He stayed out all night. A neighbor heard me crying and applied ointment to my burns. When my father finally came home, she informed him that he was very negligent. Story 66. I took the initiative to invite a friend of mine, whom I had not talked to in a long time, to sleep over. It turned out that the entire time she was there, she tried to flirt with my boyfriend. When she noticed he was not interested, she decided to leave. Story 67. Hoo boy, I have an entire post on that. Not just my birthday, but pretty much my entire life. Story 68. When you realize your birthday cake has more candles than actual people showing up to celebrate. That is a fact. Story 69. The last birthday party I had when I was 11, I invited the whole class, but only 2 people showed up. We had cake and they left early. I decided after that to treat my birthday like a normal, regular day. Story 70. The dog my parents got when I was 13 died the night before my 21st birthday. Also, the very tense confrontation I had with my dad about the abuse I suffered as a child occurred on my 20th birthday. Story 71. I spent my 12th birthday in the hospital, which was fine because I had been hospitalized 1 to 2 times monthly for a few years. However, I caught the stomach flu that was going around the children's ward. I spent my 12th birthday on the toilet with a supply of plastic dishes in front of me, crying my eyes out. 12 has always been my favorite number. Story 72. Oh wow, this blew up more than I could have imagined. While I cannot respond to everyone individually, it means a lot that you all are supporting one another. Big thanks to everyone for sharing their stories. I am glad you are all here and will toast to celebrating you on your birthday, or if you do not enjoy this time of year, to celebrating you right now. Cheers, friends. Story 73. My friends completely ignored me on my birthday trip, then talked negatively about me after the trip. Story 74. Disappointment occurs almost every year. The only person who has remembered and cared each year has been my grandmother. I stopped having birthday parties at age 14 because no one cared anymore. My birthday is in mid-September, so everyone has sports commitments, and my cousins, who were the only people I cared about coming, had Boy Scouts. I got tired of almost everyone I invited being unable to attend. My father has never wished me a happy birthday. Last year, my grandmother had to remind my mother. My coworkers remembered, but my mother did not. Story 75. On my birthday 1.5 years ago, I chemically melted off 50 to 75% of my hair trying to do an at-home straightening process. Story 76. Every birthday, I get very sick. In 2022, I woke up with a terrible flu. In 2023, I had bronchitis and had to take multiple medications. This happened at Dave & Buster's. I started violently throwing up while eating my birthday chicken strips and had a fever of 100 degrees. In 2024, I woke up with pneumonia. During my birthday celebration, I started coughing uncontrollably and fell to the floor as the band was getting ready. My friends watched my mother escort me inside while I was choking. I am scared for this year. Story 77. Emergency surgery a year ago. That year, I was working at a job I hated in a city I hated. When my coworkers had a special dinner at work for another coworker who shared a birthday with me. I don't make a big deal out of my birthday. Those seem to stand out, though. Story 78. I have never had a birthday party where people showed up. My parents threw parties when I was a child, but nobody ever came. Eventually, I gave up on having celebrations and I do not like my birthday. It is just a reminder that nobody cares about me. Story 79. My now ex-husband picked a fight and yelled at me for an hour on the way to my weekend 40th birthday celebration with friends. He told me I was useless and worthless because I did not get our kids dressed, did not help them with their breakfast that morning, and did not clean up the kitchen satisfactorily. I had packed everything for our kids and myself the day before, made the kids breakfast, and then spent 40 minutes getting myself ready. Apparently, I was a terrible wife, mother, and person because I did not do enough that morning. I had skipped breakfast to get myself ready. That birthday and those feelings were the beginning of the last straw, and those feelings are still etched in my mind. That was the last birthday I spent with him after many horrible birthdays I spent alone or crying. I still don't celebrate birthdays and only spend the day with my kids, best friend, or extended family, but I never end the day crying now. Story 80. I had cervical cancer and underwent a hysterectomy on my 33rd birthday. I kept telling myself I would no longer have periods by my birthday. Now I feel depressed around my birthday because I wonder how one mourns children they never met. Story 81. I found out my grandmother had died about a month earlier. I was living overseas, and international communication was not as easy in 2001, so news traveled slowly. Story 82. I turned 50 this year. On my birthday, our leasing agent informed us that we needed to move because the investment firm that owns our house is divesting its United States assets. 2 weeks later, my husband was laid off due to tariffs. Thank you for voting in this situation. I appreciate it. Story 83. Summer before sophomore year. My birthday. The first girl I ever loved told me she was breaking up with me for my close friend. I never forgave him for that. I never heard from her again, and of course they did not last. Betrayal on my 15th birthday. Laugh out loud. Story 84. My birthday is on Halloween. My neighborhood, when I was a kid, was not very into trick-or-treating, but one year, someone showed up during one of my parties. Thankfully, I live in an apartment now. Although I do not have extravagant parties as I am older, we have a dinner gathering at a restaurant or something similar. Story 85. We had just sung the happy birthday song, and I guess my son was very excited. He threw up all over the table, and it smelled so bad I couldn't eat anymore. I made sure he was fine, and then I cried a bit. It is rare to have my parents together, and he did that. I still think he was just excited, or maybe he felt odd because of the food texture. Story 86. I had a birthday party in junior school a long time ago. I thought everyone would like going to a party, so I invited my entire class. However, on the day of the party, nobody came, and my parents forgot about it. It was really sad, and when I told them, I was crying because I was a child. It is not a good story to remember. Story 87. My dad made it about himself. My birthday is very close to Father's Day, so he always does that. Then he makes me cry every year. Story 88. I put my husband in charge of planning my birthday one time. He threw it together only 3 days in advance, so almost no one could even show up. Then he missed the whole party trying to shop for a present for me. He got me something I never asked for and have barely used. Story 89. One year, my family forgot. Last year, I got yelled at by my toddler until I cried because I asked her to wait a bit to go get Smarties. This year, I had to plan everything, didn't even get a card, but had to help pick out a card for my wife's friend and my daughter's friend. I am completely done. Story 90. 19. Had to spend it graduating with all those people who made high school the worst years of my life. I did not want to go at all, but my family made me. 20. Spent it alone at home with a cake. An intoxicated family member came and started a fight without considering that. 27. Fresh breakup with an ex I loved so much who was supposed to be there eating with me. 30. Same as 27. Story 91. I'm about to have my first birthday without my best friend, and the only thing I felt like I really had. Over 20 years ago, there was a kitten behind the fence in our yard. I didn't know her exact date of birth from the veterinarian paperwork, and being a middle school-aged kid, for the month and day, I put down mine, June 14th. I never liked my birthday because of my family, so I felt like I gave it away to her. I couldn't really afford much for her last year. The year or two before, her health crashed before our birthday. I remember just asking her to share one more birthday with me. I bought a pretty cat tree for her, a new collar. I tried to buy her a nice fancy one every year, and some other things. I didn't think she would live to use any of them and thought I might end up donating them. But she bounced back again to her regular, healthy self. I couldn't ask her again. We let her go in March. Story 92. My mom died unexpectedly 10 days before I turned 30. The doctors found an aneurysm that had likely been there for at least 20 years. It was huge. She had surgery to have a coil placed in the aneurysm to stop it from growing. They sent the coil up through an artery. I had plans to go out of town for my birthday on the same day I was supposed to leave, but my mom said I should move ahead with my plans and that everything would be fine. Fast forward to us girls on the road, and I received a call that the surgery was a success. Everything went according to plan, and they would start getting her into recovery. About 20 minutes later, I got a call that the aneurysm started leaking, and I needed to turn around and come back home. When I got there, I ran up as the doctor was telling my family that she had had a stroke and the aneurysm was pushing on her thalamus, so there was no way to go in and remove it. Life is unpredictable. One second you think everything is fine, and the next you are faced with a harsh reality. Story 93. On my 10th birthday, I was riding my new bike and flipped over the handlebars, breaking my tooth. It ruined my playing Twister at my party later because my knee was cut open from the accident. Then I got very drunk on my 18th birthday and chipped the same tooth. Only the fake part, on a vodka bottle. That cursed birthday tooth scares me every year. Story 94. My teacher got mad at me for something another student did. I have always been told that I need to grow up and act my age now that I am an adult, but I am a kid at heart. Story 95. My ex left on a vacation with the children and her new boyfriend. We were still married and living together at the time. This is how I found out about him. Story 96. My 13th birthday. For some reason, that was the day my mother scheduled to put down our 17-year-old dog. To make it up to me, she said we would go out to dinner, which was rare. My father did not want to go and said he was sick, so he stayed home. My younger brother, who was 11 at the time, was tormenting and hitting me. When we sat down at the restaurant, he kept kicking me under the table, and my mother did nothing. After ordering a plate of nachos to share, my mother suddenly remembered the carpet store nearby was closing in 20 minutes and she needed to go. Thankfully, she took my brother after I begged. But I had to stay as we were waiting for the nachos. Sitting there, crying alone in the restaurant on my birthday, picking at nachos that I did not even like, with the most pitiful looks from the waitresses, was very hard, especially with social anxiety. My mother did not even buy any carpet. Story 97. The 18th was during coronavirus disease. I was quarantined for close contact and was not allowed to be anywhere or interact with anyone. One person on Snapchat saw the little cake emoji next to my name that night and sent me a happy birthday snap from a party they were at. Everyone else at the party proceeded to do the same while in large groups. Meanwhile, I was sitting at home by myself for the 5th day in a row. I felt really lonely that night. Story 98. My birthday is September 8th. On my 16th birthday, my so-called parents decided to celebrate not on my actual day but on the weekend on Sunday during the Dallas Cowboys game on September 11th. My cake didn't even say happy birthday. It said, "Remember September 11th. Go Cowboys." That same birthday, they spent all day saying they had no money to buy me anything. All I had wanted was some $5 manga from half-price books. I wasn't too upset as they had pulled this trick before. So I actually got a bit excited when my so-called stepdad came home with several large gift wrap boxes that he had me, my boyfriend, and one of my friends carry in. Not a single one of those boxes was for me. They were all for my mother to unwrap on my birthday. And it was over $600 worth of unnecessary kitchen appliances. To this day, before I went no contact with them, my biological mother swears she only sent him out for a basic can opener. I also still had to do all the football party cooking and cleaning because, as my mother put it, it's not actually your birthday today. Story 99. On the day of my 14th birthday, I woke up wearing only briefs and went downstairs to sit on the couch. I felt a soft, mushy substance on my buttocks, followed by a distinct stench. It was definitely cat feces. We do not even have a cat. Somehow, a cat snuck into our house, defecated on the couch, and then left. After that, not sure if it was related, I contracted hand, foot, and mouth disease. I had to take a couple of weeks off school because it was contagious. Story 100. When I was little, my parents would invite their friends and their children. Then the adults would get drunk, and I had to play with the children I did not like. I never celebrated that again. Now, it is a normal working day for me. Story 101. Found out my fiancé was cheating on me a couple of days before my birthday. I received a direct message from the mistress, but she knew we had been together for 12 years and still chose to be a homewrecker. I dodged a bullet, but that was a rough birthday. Story 102. Adulthood. At some point, you just want some peace and quiet and maybe a fancy meal. Maybe I am just cynical or have been around the wrong people for too long. Trying to coordinate people to do something for your birthday never turns out exactly right. If you make a big fuss about it, suddenly you are childish for being obsessed with your birthday. Then the next day, everything is back to normal. You go to work or whatever. Essentially, you return to real life and it is like your birthday did not even matter. I feel the same way about holidays. Story 103. My mother took my childhood dog to be euthanized on my 16th birthday, while my father took me to get my driver's license. Story 104. My now ex-boyfriend forgot my birthday, remembered 4 days later, and broke up with me the following week. That happened this year. Story 105. Almost every birthday was unpleasant. The ones I liked most were the ones when I was left alone. When I was in 5th or 6th grade, report cards came out and I had 2B grades. My mother decided to punish me with the cane on my birthday. This was very normal, but I cried a lot that day because it had to happen on my birthday. Then she made me sleep in the garage all day, and I had to skip lunch and dinner. Story 106. On my 21st birthday, my friends took me out to celebrate. Usually, we would split the birthday person's bill, but this time they made me pay for my dinner. They even complained about the restaurant because I did not choose the place they preferred. Story 107. On my 19th birthday, I was not informed in advance that I would not be receiving any gifts. I arrived at the party and did not receive anything, while watching my younger brother receive many gifts. I did not mention it because I did not want to appear greedy or ungrateful. After the party, I casually brought it up to my mother and she said, "Oh, well, yes, you are an adult now, and adults do not really get birthday gifts anymore." I understand, but I would have appreciated being told ahead of time, "Hey, you are not getting anything this year," instead of being left confused while my brother received many gifts. It was depressing as the reality hit me that I was leaving my childhood and missed my teenage years behind. Story 108. Not me, but my best friend's dad died days before her 11th birthday, and then a few years later her mom died a few days after her 17th birthday. Definitely not ideal. Story 109. A doctor, who could clearly see my birthday at the top of my file, called to tell me I tested positive for something I could not possibly have had, as I had not had any type of sexual interaction for about 2 years before that. Later that evening, my mom decided to make it worse by trying to teach me a life lesson about adulthood. Story 110. I am a 45-year-old female and a proud Aries Generation X member. Every year since I became an adult, I want an ice cream cake from Baskin-Robbins. And every year I say that is what I want. Only a few birthdays have I gotten one. Story 111. This year, for my partner's birthday, I arranged a weekend away. Various trips and meals were included. She did not pay anything. For my birthday, I booked us a meal. I paid for it and drove. She could not contribute because her adult children had borrowed so much money that her income was affected. Happy birthday to me as long as I pay for it. Story 112. My friend received a driving under the influence charge with 2 pounds of marijuana in the trunk after totaling her car. Then, I fell down a flight of stairs and landed directly on my head. Story 113. My grandmother's funeral was on my 10th birthday. We had a very strict family that followed the 3 days after the death for the funeral tradition. Story 114. My most recent birthday? No one really remembered it. My worst birthday? The birthday my mother passed away. Story 115. My family planned a day trip to the hill country to visit a local brewery. My aunts flew in from out of town to celebrate with me as well. Early on my birthday morning, my mom received a call from one of my grandmother's neighbors that my grandmother had fallen, broken her arm, and was in the hospital. We spent most of my birthday at the hospital taking care of my grandmother. We never went on the trip to the hill country. Story 116. Receiving a pen for my 17th birthday, along with a small bag of candy from my parents and best friend. Story 117. My alcoholic dad went through alcohol withdrawal the day before my 10th birthday. He fell face first on the ground, had a grand mal seizure, and broke his nose. The sound of someone seizing is terrifying and unforgettable. Blood was everywhere and it looked like a crime scene. I spent my 10th birthday visiting him in the hospital. He swore he would never do it again. That lasted a week, and then he went right back to drinking and repeating the same behavior for years. I do not know why, but that always stayed with me. Story 118. On my 18th birthday, nobody was there. Nobody. I received a few happy birthday wishes over the phone, but that was it. I did have my dogs, though. Maybe when I am 40, it will seem like a dream to have a day of absolute quiet. But right now, that was the worst birthday I have ever had. Story 119. For my 21st birthday, I hung out with my friend who decided to celebrate by drinking a 36-pack of cheap beer. I was his designated driver for the night. To top off the evening, I discovered the fun of watching a very drunk guy try to use a key to open doors. Let's not forget trying to guide that friend upstairs. Recently, I commemorated the 30th anniversary of that day, which was also the last time I saw him. Story 120. I have two. 1. My uncle died. It was my 9th birthday. My mom and dad had a big argument over nothing important. They were just toxic. This happened more than once, but this time it was my 13th birthday. I was excited to go to a breakfast buffet with my family and two friends. It was the only thing I wanted, and as a child, now an adult with severe food issues, it was a very big deal for me. They couldn't get organized to arrive at the buffet on time, so it shifted to a lunch menu, casting a dark cloud over everything. I sat in the truck for an hour and a half waiting for them to finish and come. I am pretty sure my dad did not even go with us in the end. But 20 years later, I am over it. Story 121. Husband did not think turning 40 was a big deal until he turned 40 a few months later and his coworkers made a big fuss about it. Story 122. Having a birthday close to Christmas is usually enough to put a damper on it. Last year, my wife decided that I needed time for myself on my birthday, and she went with her parents and siblings to get matching tattoos, while I was stuck working on my truck all day. Story 123. My family. I was never allowed to feel special on my birthday. It was just another day. To this day, I feel absolute ambivalence about it. Story 124. My mother was unconscious in the intensive care unit, and I knew we had to say goodbye, which we did a few days later. I do not like my birthday anymore. Story 125. In my early 20s, my boyfriend dumped me after his birthday but before mine. A gorgeous bouquet of roses was delivered on my birthday. My mother made a huge deal about them, thinking they were from the boyfriend. They were not. A good friend's family owned a flower shop, and she had sent them. It was only complicated because my mother got involved. The friend had the best of intentions. Story 126. My birthday is difficult every year because it falls right after Thanksgiving, during the Christmas season and finals. Additionally, it is cold and dark outside. No one ever wants to do anything. If I try to plan something, no one comes. I have also heard my entire life about how hard it is to budget for both my birthday and Christmas gifts on top of everything else that needs to be purchased. If you do not have a December birthday, you are very fortunate. Story 127. My dad and my brother do not get along. My brother will not talk to my dad anymore. My dad tried to take over my birthday to be in the same room as my brother. I was quite insulted and decided to leave town for my birthday. I went on a hike alone, got drenched in the rain, and fell in the mud. Story 128. On my birthday at dinner, my ex and I got into a huge fight, and he left the restaurant, leaving me alone at the table with the bill. I filed for divorce the following week. Story 129. My sister always has to make everything about herself. So my birthday usually ended up with her doing something to make the day about her. This continued into our teenage years and even into our 20s. Absolutely exhausting. Story 130. My birthday for many years growing up fell on Father's Day, when my extended family would have a Father's Day gathering to celebrate. Sometimes they forgot it was my birthday, so it did not even matter. Story 131. Sexual assault happened to me a few days before my birthday several years ago. It was the worst birthday of my life. Story 132. I have been told by my teenage son that I am not worthy of being called a father and that my standards are too low for him. Story 133. My sister broke into the liquor cabinet the night before my birthday party. I had been at school all day, then worked from about 3:30 to 10 p.m., only to come home and keep my mom and sister from fighting. For the next 4 hours, I tried to plead with them to go to bed. I was exhausted, smelled like pizza and teenage angst, and didn't even have enough time to shower. On that day, my mom scheduled an emergency therapy session for my sister, and we had to be there by 3:30 p.m. My party was at 1 p.m. We did an escape room that took an hour, then went to get food. It would have been fine if the service had been timely, which it was not. The therapist's office was 30 minutes away. I ended up getting my food to go and ate in the car while my sister and mom fought again. I couldn't eat with my friends, all because my sister had to be a 14-year-old drug addict and chronic drinker. Happy 15th birthday, me. I also didn't get a graduation party because my sister wanted it to be a full-on rager at a campground, but that's a story for a different time. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.